The legacy media collapse has begun in earnest, and we're starting to see the ramifications and the realities that come along with it. We're going to start to see the beginning of layoffs that are just the very, very start of the things to come. I don't think a lot of people in media actually realize what's about to happen, as not only are companies spinning off their unprofitable segments, they're also spinning off their unprofitable employees. What does that look like? Well, read MSNBC, PMSNBC and similar companies. But one of the big studios that found itself in a weird position for a few years is trying to de-weird what's going on. Not sure what I'm talking about? Well, stick around, because here we go. Now, before we get started, just a quick reminder to double check you're still subscribed to the channel. If you're not, it's free. You can use the magic button down there, subscribe, and join all of the amazing Culturians here on the channel. You can also turn on all notifications so you don't miss anything, because I give you a lot of information and entertainment daily, and you're not going to want to miss any. And finally, while you're down there, hit the like button and get prepared to leave some comments, because I think you're going to want to make some. When we look at the complete failure in media, we only have to look at one that tried not to fail. AT&T used a strategy called a reverse Morris trust in order to bring two companies together in a very strange merger. That's right, Discovery and Warner Brothers came together as Warner Brothers Discovery, which is an odd name, but it didn't seem like it was going to last more than the minimum requirement. Well, it lasted longer than the minimum to make it to the maximum, which is to spin out the two companies once more. One of them definitely going to be profitable and be an entity for the future, and the other is where you put all of the questionable or misfit toys. And in this case, Warner Brothers cuts 10% of motion picture group workforce across marketing, distribution, production, and more. That's right, 10% of those people weren't necessary. There are probably more that aren't necessary right now, but Warner's determined that they just don't need them. A lot of media companies are going to do that because a lot of people were hired for other reasons than what they should have been doing all along. From yesterday's exclusive article, the Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group is undergoing 10% cuts, we've learned. This follows Monday's news about how leadership is getting split between the new Warner Brothers and Discovery Global. Layoffs are across marketing, distribution, production strategy, operations, and theater ventures, which means, well, 1/10 of the company is gone. And probably for good reason. I imagine a lot of mid-level management jobs were expendable, so you probably take a healthy cut there. We hear these cuts have been in the planning since the early part of this year. Of course they were. Probably a conversation that both David Zaslav and Gunnar Weidenfels actually had even 2 years ago. Hard to say, but that's probable. Leadership assessed what was needed in the current global marketplace, and the strategic changes shift away from a U.S. international management model to a global structure approach. We'll update you what we hear about the departure of key executives, of which there will be many. From a note specifically from co-chairs Pamela Abdy and Michael DeLuca, who surprisingly still have their jobs, although they've seemed to turn the theatrical receipts around when it comes to the box office overall. Team Motion Pictures. Earlier this year, in collaboration with leaders across the film division, we undertook a thoughtful assessment of our current structure and began the work to transform our business as we transition from a U.S. home office international model towards a fully global structure, which, to be fair, might be an absolute mess, but hey, they got to do something. The exploration led to important conversations and insights to better understand how we reach audiences, what fundamental shifts should be implemented as teams work together across the world to collectively engage today's moviegoers, and what the division needs to be successful. I am very impressed. If you guys didn't notice, I will help you. That was one silly sentence, which is insane. Whoever wrote that, they need to be fired. Regardless, in partnership with our P&C colleagues, And with these new learnings, we spent a lot of time thinking about how we evolve our teams to ensure films made here at Warner Brothers continue to receive world-class release campaigns, and we engross audiences with the kind of memorable in-theater experiences only the big screen can offer. Adapting how we work often calls for evolution, and the future of how we run this business has required us to make some very difficult decisions, including staffing adjustments that will impact members of the motion picture group. This week, your department leadership will share what these strategic changes mean for you and your teams. In the coming weeks and months, we will work with leaders around the world to shape and implement this global operating model in a way that reflects local needs and realities. We know news like this is never easy, and we are tremendously grateful to our departing team members whose contributions throughout their time at Warner Brothers Pictures has made a lasting impact on both of us and so many of you. They each have a lot to be proud of. We know this group will continue to achieve great things together while we remain focused on what's ahead. With gratitude, Mike and Pam. And perhaps it wasn't necessary to read that, but at least it wasn't done with a ridiculous tone and with acknowledgement that, it's not fun to be fired. Warner Brothers Discovery made this separation news public in June, with that divide coming in mid-2026, very early if they can make that happen. That followed Comcast move to spin off PMS-NBC and other things from NBC Universal's cable networks into a standalone public company called Versant. The decisions to split up these coglums into two were driven by the desire for increased flexibility amid a decline of legacy linear television. Now, mind you, everybody in this industry will do it, even Disney, as you're going to start to see different cable offerings absolutely disappear, if not be sold off entirely. If you're interested, the article actually does contain the breakdowns of future positions for all executive levels, and I imagine you're going to start to see a list of executives that are departing. Where they'll go, probably some startup. How that'll work, well, probably not very well. Warner Brothers is positioned for greatness at this point in time. They had an extraordinary box office year, and while Pam and Michael seem to have struggled early on, they seem to have gotten their feet under them since Barbie. When you look at Minecraft and so many other offerings that shot to the forefront this year, you can probably recognize that the future is bright. I've also been hearing some good things about future games development over there as they narrow focus onto things that will actually have broad appeal. This is not the end of the road for news like this. As I said at the beginning of the video, it's actually just a start. You're going to start to see companies falling apart and shedding certain elements of the corporation, such as entire channels on the cable spectrum, and perhaps even some more expensive, more popular linear offerings. At some point, these companies will have to break down rather than combine together in order to even survive. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It's not going to stop here. Paramount already laid off 3.5% early this summer, and likely are going to be cutting more. NBC, CBS, especially on the news side of the equation, they're going to be cutting more. Even ABC is in for another round of layoffs, and probably a healthy chunk of people who never should have been hired in the first place, which is going to cost Disney quite a bit of money that they should never have had to spend. Is it sad? Maybe, but it's part of an ongoing grind that the media companies created for themselves, and it's not going to be a pleasant one. But hey, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know your thoughts about media layoffs and the pending calamity that's about to occur, and whether or not you think it will be as bad as I've described or even worse. Let me know if you think that we haven't seen the end over at Warner Brothers Discovery or any other media company this year. And let me know if you think there will be over 15,000 people cut from the media landscape by the end of 2025. On that note, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya for real.